Vergangenes Wochenende hat Israel den lange erwarteten Gegenschlag gegen den Iran durchgeführt. Nach vorheriger Warnung an die Islamische Republik über den niederländischen Außenminister Caspar Veldkamp schoss Israel mehrere Raketen auf den Iran ab. Israel berichtete, dass mehrere Anlagen getroffen wurden, wo iranische Raketen produziert werden. Teheran-nahe Medien berichten hingegen nur von minimalen Schäden. Außerdem soll eine Vielzahl der israelischen Raketen von der iranischen Luftabwehr abgefangen worden sein. Wie schätzt du den israelischen Luftschlag ein? Hat Israel die anvisierten Ziele getroffen? Und gibt es außer der Gesichtswahrung für den israelischen Premierminister Benjamin Netanyahu nennenswerte Ergebnisse?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult to carry out an assessment of this nature without knowing, A, what exactly the targets were that Israel was aiming for, and B, what is the current status of these targets? This is an absolutely incomplete data set, and we're also have to note that it's in the interest of Israel to claim that it was very successful, and it's in the interest of Iran to claim that Israel wasn't very successful. So the fact is, the truth probably lies somewhere in between. I will say this, that the attack that Israel had been promising for some time now is not the attack that was carried out. What was carried out was a very limited scope attack against a handful of targets, as opposed to the devastating response that would, rock the regime of Iran from top to bottom. And the other thing is that, the Israelis claim that they neutralized Iranian air defense. The Iranians claim that they shot down most of the Israeli missiles. Again, I will probably yield toward the Iranian response. There doesn't seem to be any evidence to back up Israel's claims. What satellite-based imagery has been provided is very difficult to ascertain what exactly happened, what was destroyed, what was damaged, and in any event, it doesn't mirror the expansive claims made by Israel regarding destruction of Iranian resources. So I think this attack was a failure on the part of Israel, one that will prompt Israel to possibly consider the need to launch a follow-on attack, because if their goal was to deter Iran, I think that all this did is solidify in the minds of the Iranians the impotence of Israel when it comes to engaging in a direct war of long-range attrition with Iran. But the attack was large enough to prompt an Iranian response. If the goal was just to do a demonstration attack of potential, but not to do any significant damage, then they failed, because this attack was a large attack, even though it had limited scope and scale. And at least 4 Iranian soldiers died, and their loss demands a response. And so I don't think this brings an end to the cycle of violence. I do think we'll be looking at an Iranian response that'll be much more damaging to Israel than either of the first two.
Der gegenseitige Schlagabtausch zwischen Israel und Iran zieht sich nun seit Monaten hin. Nach dem israelischen Angriff wäre nun der Iran wieder an der Reihe, einen Gegenschlag durchzuführen. Verbale Drohungen wurden von Teheran bereits ausgesprochen. Rechnest du mit einem ähnlichen großen iranischen Raketenangriff wie am 1. Oktober? Wird der Iran noch vor der US-Präsidentschaftswahl am 5. November angreifen oder eher danach?
These are questions only the Iranian government can truly answer. I would anticipate that the response would be a focused response of similar size, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe with some new capabilities thrown in, but this one would be designed to do real damage to a particular target, whether it be an airbase or a critical infrastructure or military industrial facility. I don't know, but this time I fully expect that when the Iranian attack is finished, there will be a place in Israel that has been severely damaged, if not fully destroyed. The timing of this is of no consequence to Iran. The American election is something that I don't think the Iranians, they're not seeking to sway either one of the parties. Both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have spoken ill about Iran. And in many ways, it would be better to strike before the election, so as if Donald Trump wins, to confront him with a fait accompli. Donald Trump claims to be the president who's seeking to avoid war. And if you strike before the election, the responsible party for the war will be the Biden administration. If you strike after the election, you're sending a signal to a potential Trump presidency that that you are seeking confrontation. So in many ways, it makes more sense for Iran to strike before the American election.
Lass uns über das iranische Raketenarsenal sprechen. Laut offiziellen iranischen Meldungen wurden bei den bisherigen iranischen Angriffen zwar bereits Hyperschall-Raketen eingesetzt, aber noch nicht die modernsten Typen, über die der Iran verfügt. Da stellt sich natürlich die Frage, warum setzt der Iran diese Raketen bislang nicht ein und agiert Israel vielleicht auch deswegen so aggressiv, um Iran zu provozieren, seine neuesten Raketen einzusetzen? Dann könnten israelische und US-Spezialisten diese analysieren.
The thing about weaponry is that it's the journalists want to know more about the capabilities of weapons than the military specialists, because we already know what the weapons are capable of doing. We know what is required of a hypersonic missile, etc. So for American politicians and Israeli politicians to deliberately provoke a war where human lives will be lost, where billions of dollars of resources will be expended simply to gain access to technical information that would then be released to the media to feed the bloodlust of an audience that whose opinion simply doesn't matter. No, I don't agree with this. I don't believe that this is an effort to smoke out Iranian capability. We know what the Iranians have claimed. The Fatah-2 missile, the hypersonic missile that they haven't used yet, can do. Our technical intelligence specialists have done, studies based upon what they know of Iranian missile production capabilities, and we have put out in classified circles, which is the only circle that matters when it comes to policymakers, what the anticipated operational parameters of these missiles are. Such information would be useful insofar as it could guide future ballistic missile defense capabilities, modifying, the parameters, improving on them in future production cycles. But, the bottom line is Israel and the United States have to go to war with the force that they currently possess. And we know what that force is. We know what that force is capable of doing. And we know that it's insufficient to the task of fully intercepting the ballistic missile potential of Iran as demonstrated to date. Having another missile that can penetrate this defensive shield isn't going to change the fact that Israel is vulnerable to Iranian missile attack.
Laut Medienberichten haben die Houthi vergangene Woche einen Luftschlag auf israelische Ziele nahe Tel Aviv durchgeführt. Die Houthi selbst berichteten, dass sie eine Hyperschall-Rakete eingesetzt haben, die die israelische und die US-Luftverteidigung durchbrochen hat. Dazu haben wir zwei Fragen. Erstens, hältst du es für realistisch, dass nun auch die Houthi über Hyperschall-Raketen verfügen? Zweitens, kannst du bitte ins Detail gehen, was genau Hyperschall-Raketen von anderen Raketen unterscheidet?
Well, I do believe the Houthis possess a ballistic missile capability that falls into the category of hypersonic. You know, hypersonic isn't just about speed, it's about performance. The reality is, every modern ballistic missile that flies a ballistic missile, ballistic trajectory, is a hypersonic weapon because it is flying at speeds greater than 5 times the speed of sound. What makes it a hypersonic weapon is the ability to achieve this trajectory independent of the physics of ballistic trajectory. So generally speaking, a ballistic missile will launch, do a burn, reach the top, and then use gravity to fall back to Earth. And the speed that it obtains, the height that it's at, falling back, it will achieve hypersonic trajectory at some point in that arc. A hypersonic weapon, however, is not going to fly a ballistic trajectory. It's going to fly a trajectory where it is going to fly a flatter trajectory under its own independent power. It's not going to be relying upon gravitational forces to achieve its speed. It's going to be powered itself, either using a ramjet engine or some solid propellant charge in the warhead. It also is able to maneuver and adjust its the plane of its attack. I think the combination of that, having its own power, not flying a ballistic trajectory, and the maneuvering aspect of its warhead, that's what makes it a hypersonic weapon. The totality of those factors combined is what defeats air defense systems, not simply the speed of the missile. So it's somewhat misleading to say hypersonic and use that as the only defining characteristic.
Gibt es eine Möglichkeit für die Luftabwehr, Hyperschall-Raketen abzuschießen? Verfügt irgendein Land auf der Welt über ein solches System?
Russia claims that the advanced versions of its S-400 and the new S-500 missile defense systems are capable of shooting down maneuvering hypersonic threats. So the extent to which the Russian claims are accurate hasn't been tested in combat yet.
Liebe Zuschauer, wenn euch unsere Beiträge gefallen, teilt sie unbedingt in den sozialen Medien. Abonniert unseren Kanal und drückt auf die Glocke, damit ihr keine Veröffentlichung von Gegenpol verpasst.